What is going on, everybody? Non here, and after getting my head kicked in for 2 days since I took last week off, just getting back into the swing of things with real work and not real work. I finally had a chance to pull together some of my key takeaways from Gamma, and these are really in no particular order. I kind of went game by game, designer by designer. But first of all, for those of you who don't know, Mason Cardinal Games, one of the nicest dudes on the planet. Local to there, can't say more nice things about him. But anyway, I digress. So, League of Legends Riftbound is here to stay. Distributors can't get enough of the product, and they don't think UVS can print enough. Now, in the UVS session, they seem to want to continue to reprint some of the older product to keep it semi-available as new sets come out. I think anybody who knows anything about UVS knows that they are limited. Now, obviously, they can get as much capital as they need to print the product. But once you get out to set 4, set 5, pretty much everybody's skeptical that they're going to be able to execute on their plan. So we'll see. But there was a Proving Grounds and an Origins reprint originally scheduled for March. I believe it was like March 20th, 21st, something like that. But they did say that they've delayed it till approximately June. And they also noted that Proving Grounds will be printed in a different facility, different print quality. I don't know why they felt the need to say that. I don't know if that's a good thing or if that's a bad thing, but we'll see. So that is League of Legends. And again, everybody is super bullish on it. Moving to Bandai. So Gundam, this is kind of my favorite piece. So they're super pleased that that's at the set 3 sell-through, and they're full speed ahead on the game. It was interesting in the session they had. It was really the organized play session, but they had all the game leads for North America. I think it was North America. Maybe it's globally. Bunch of young dudes, which was interesting. But they did confirm that GDO1 New Type Rising is out of print. They are not going to print anymore. Any playable cards will be reprinted. I believe it's EBO1 is going to be the specialty set with the reprints. Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was that. I don't think it was STO5, which is GDO5, which is the university. My God, I can't even talk. The anniversary set. They did confirm that Starter 1 through Starter 4 will be reprinted. Obviously important to gameplay because those things have gone sky high. One Piece expansion to Southern and PhD for distribution is really about casting a wider net and growing the player base. Now they realize they're going to have to increase the print run, but they are not going to double the print run. They're going to keep things tight. And I think as we saw with OP15 versus OP14, the print run has increased a little bit. But there are obviously a lot more stores with organized play. So the pie is being diluted fairly substantially already. But they are laser focused on organized play. They just talk about a minimum allocation based on how many events you've run and how big your store is, which I think is kind of cool. I think that's also some of what's happened with Pokemon getting squeezed because there's pretty much everybody is taking on new accounts. Now, they are being super selective where you need proven play space. You need more than, a shoebox and things like that. So that's good. But once you cross that threshold, if you have organized play with Pokemon, you're going to get 3 to 4 cases, which allows you to build allocation, which takes away from the pool, which it is what it is. So I think that's some of the dynamic that's happening with One Piece. And obviously, the more stores that carry it, the more it's going to get diluted in online sales because not all the folks are going to carry or going to run organized play. So we'll see what happens. Unarena and Dragon Ball, I'll kind of roll these together. So Unarena, I wouldn't sleep on either one of these, but since they went to brick and mortar restricted, they've really improved the case. They've dramatically improved the value of the booster box post-release. So for those of you who don't know, Union Arena was not brick and mortar restricted a couple sets ago. A lot of folks that are outside of your traditional distribution chains could get it. They'd sell it to, what we like to call backpack sellers. They don't have stores. They just buy an IP and then they dump it, try to make a quick flip. That is no longer a thing. So since that is no longer a thing, the new set, I think the boxes are like $85 still. Distro price is somewhere high 40s, low 50s. So it's worked. And I think the key takeaway here, Dragon Ball as well, obviously a ton of interest coming with I believe the anime is getting renewed, is Bandai's taking everything and moving it toward One Piece as opposed to taking One Piece and moving it toward everything else. And, obviously that was a big concern for the longest time because Bandai doesn't have a great track record until recently. By recently, I just argue the last year and a half of keeping games alive. But, this looks interesting. Now, I know last year they talked about merging Dragon Ball Super and Dragon Ball Fusion World. I'm still thoroughly confused with how those two interact. So, I didn't get that. So if feel free to comment. Moving to Bushi. So Palworld looked really, really cool. And obviously, for those of you who don't know, it is affectionately called Pokemon with Guns. There was some litigation years ago because the Palworld characters look a lot like Pokemon. And that's the last I'll say about that. It's going to be something positive. It's not going to be Riftbound. But I think it's going to have some interest. I think it's going to play fairly well. If you haven't ordered it yet and you have access to, I highly recommend you order something. And there's Chase there. And quite honestly, even though Bushi seems to think the litigation is behind them, if there's any further legal noise and there's any drama, I think it's only going to draw more people to the game, to mess with the game, quite honestly. So I'm going to scroll down a little bit slower here. Make you guys wait. So Godzilla. I sense a lot of frustration in the Bushi folks I spoke to, where it seems like they're waiting for direction from Toho, whether it's marketing or go-to-market ways to expand everything. And again, they seem really, really frustrated. So there really wasn't a whole lot of point in continuing the discussion. So it is clear that Bushiroad is clearly will distribute the product, will be your supply chain, but you guys are running the show. So a little bit different than how they deal with Hololive, where they're kind of doing both. Even though I don't believe they own the IP, but I think they are a little bit more involved in the direction of the game. Moving on to Weiss, Nikkei Volume 2 will have a simultaneous Japanese and US release, which I think was interesting. Freerun Volume 2, not Funeral of Freerun, which releases next Friday in Japan, I think the 30th. This is Freerun Volume 2 based on the second season, the 10 episodes that is out on Crunchyroll right now, and Brown Dust 2, which to me is kind of like the second coming of Azure Lane, only it's a little bit less clothing. It sells. It is what it is. Don't judge me. It seems like they're going to be 2027 events. And here's where it got a little weird with these guys. And their English was fine. Some of the Bandai guys, it was a little rough to understand, but the Bushi guys were reasonably fine. I had a really difficult time communicating with multiple people, and I went back to the booth a couple times, talked to a couple different people, because there was a point where I thought it was, maybe I'm just speaking fast. Maybe I'm just not asking my questions correctly. But I went back a couple times, and it really, nobody understood the IPs I was talking about. Even though they're on the 2026 Japanese release schedule. I did a Weiss video about 2 weeks ago and kind of went through the second half of the year because everything is laid out. I think through July, but then they also have IPs that are like coming in Q3, coming in Q4 without an actual release date. So I'm not sure if it was the language barrier or if they just didn't know, what's coming up past what's been released, I should say, announced in the US. And then I talked to one of my colleagues, and he's like, I told you, you're stupid. I'm like, I'm stupid. Why? He's like, in Japan, they send the guys that aren't good enough for Japan to North America. So you're getting the JV. And I don't want to accept that. I thought that was a little dickish, but that could be the case as well. And then I was talking to I think it was a Northeast president. He was not nice enough guy, giggled a lot. This is kind of weird. But I asked him if they had any plans to include AGRs in the English set, which are your autograph rares. So in Japan, they have on-card autographs for the chase cards. In English, it's just a gold stamp. And then for a reprint, it's a silver stamp. And especially since Nikkei Volume 2, they're going to have simultaneous release. So the logistics are pretty easy. You print one, you print the other, you send them in. And I understand one's printed in Singapore, one's printed in Japan, but it's not that difficult to send some fucking mail. I'm not sure you understood the question. So at that point, I kind of gave up and I moved on to another game, not another Bushi game. I just like, I've had enough. I'm not making any headway. I feel like I'm speaking Latin. So it was a pretty disappointing showing when some rando on YouTube like me knows the game schedule better than the management at an industry show. That was kind of the most disappointing part about the show. Let's go to some cool stuff. Hellbreak TCG. I don't know anything about this game. All I know is they had the most badass booth there. It was like a little dungeon where around the outside where you could go in and they were playtesting the game. And I did not playtest any games. I didn't have time to. And quite honestly, at the demo nights, the games I was looking at, I don't really have the patience to sit and wait for folks to finish. And just looking at cards, I don't really care that much. But Hellbreak looked cool. It's a horror-based TCG, so check out the site if you want to. I've had folks tell me that horror-based TCGs suck. I've had people tell me they're great. I don't really care. I just thought it was cool, so I'm bringing it up. Moving on, Cyberpunk. So this is one that a lot of folks have asked about. Here. So I had no expectations when I went into the playtest room. I did a little bit of legwork on it, and it's kind of weird. So let's get into the conversation first. So I didn't play test while I was there, but I did speak to the two gentlemen there for a bit. The one dude had a rainbow mohawk. He's a super cool guy. And the other guy, I think he was an older European guy. He seemed to know his shit on the game design piece, but I couldn't find the name. And quite honestly, I don't have all of my brochures and stuff. They are at the warehouse where I haven't been to since I got home. But they seem to be knowledgeable. But they did mention that they're printing the game in China, and there's like 3 Chinese printers, and it scares the living shit out of me. And the reason for that is we've just seen Warlord get screwed over. I know Cryptid Camp printed there, MetaZoo printed there, Sorcery printed there. They all had collation issues. And everybody seems to think they work through with the Chinese and they're on the same page. And then the second you leave, they don't give a shit. Like, they've already taken your money. They don't care. They're going to give you a bag of shit. That's why they're cheap. Like, they literally don't respect anybody who's giving the money who is from overseas. That's just the way the culture works. So the guy I was talking to, he seemed to think everything was under control. We talked a little bit about print runs. He said there will be ample supply. My response was wrong answer. You need to make sure that it doesn't matter how much you print. What matters is the perception that there's a shortage in the market, because you need the collectors and investors in there buying up the product to buy you enough time to build a player base. And again, that's assumed the game is fun to play and doesn't suck. I didn't play test. I don't know. I've never really gotten into Cyberpunk. I've played all the Witch games. So Project Red looks kind of cool. I know the studio. I know they have deep pockets. But the comment about the enough product in China, it makes me feel that they're a little too green from my perspective to really, obviously not go all in. You don't go all in on any indie TCG, even if it has a massive IP, but it just has me a little cautious. And this is where the other red flags go off in my head. And it's nothing against these two gentlemen. They have studio backing from Project Red, who they're reasonably big. They have at least a handful of big IPs, but they're running a Kickstarter. which I don't quite understand. So, is there no financial commitment to the game from Project Red? Did they license it just to a bunch of random dudes with no capital who, they need capital? They did say that the purpose of Kickstarter was to gauge demand, but come on, guys. Like, I may have been bored at night, but it wasn't last night. And yeah, my comments here are just me kind of thinking in my head how I want to deliver these different points. Nobody believes that you're collecting folks' money to see what demand is. You have a legitimate large distributor in the US on the hook. They can do that for you. So this tells me that it's a licensing project. So I'm not sure Project Red is going to sink any capital into it. But again, you never know. I asked a couple of those questions. Obviously, it's confidential. I didn't get the answers. Like it's confidential as in they weren't going to tell me. I did also ask about who the well, no, let's move on. But anyway, they do have a Kickstarter that opens March 17th. I highly suggest you check it out. At the very least, if you're a speculator, it's probably worth throwing a couple bucks at. So the Kickstarter is an alpha set, and my understanding is it's a smaller set, like 150 cards. Now you're going to have your overnumber cards, your chase cards. They had some of the chase cards there. They're beautiful. Super badass looking cards. The cards shipping through GTS will be beta. So it's a larger set. It's slightly different. There's a different chase. But there are also some alpha incentives based on how much you buy, how much you spend. So I could go either way on it. I did like some of the things that the guy said. Obviously, I've mentioned some things I don't like. And look, at the end of the day, if you're printing in China, it would be nice to know it's because you couldn't get print time in the US given your timeline. Like that's all you have to say. But I didn't get that. And that, again, could be because I didn't ask the question correctly. But it's a little bit of a concern. So moving on. Pokemon. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Let's talk about the big games. What do I have to say? Everything they print is gold right now. I do want to tell you today, Asmodee Nordic they solicited a couple weeks ago. They shipped, I should say, Destined Rivals booster box reprints. They are printed in the Netherlands, as you can see right here. They have the blue tape, but they are the submarine shape. They are not the square shape cases. But again, they probably had the boxes from the US or from China or from somewhere, so they just used them. So this is the first Destined Rivals booster box reprint that I've seen confirmed. As you can see, do not open till Christmas, if you will. Moving on, Magic the Gathering. Pay no attention to Timmy's on YouTube. Timmy's on the internet. Everybody feigning rage about Universes Beyond that I'm never going to buy this and blah, 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 blah. A, they're Canadian. Just kidding. B, the game's never been hotter. It's never sold better. And I know people talk shit on Turtles. They talk shit on Spider-Man. They talk shit on Avatar. The game still sells. Now, I think one of the byproducts is all of the reprinted boxes that are coming out and the Commander displays, they're selling instantly. Like it's just vaporizing. And that could be because there's so much money that might not be buying the new set. They may be buying some older stuff that they like. They know that they have to rein in the print runs or the perception of the print runs overall, but there's really not a whole lot else that can be said. As we sit right now, the Turtles release has been very, very calm and very, very mild. The collector boxes are few and far between. The ancillary stuff is few and far between. Now, I don't necessarily think that it's distribution holding a bunch back, because if that was the case and anybody knew, I probably would have found out by now. I am waiting for the other shoe to drop on Amazon. I don't like, there are no rules. I've been around this long enough to know that universes that they don't short print product. It goes somewhere. They may not release it all right away, but we just don't know. I will tell you that Europe has confirmed reprints of Wilds of Eldraine Commander and Fallout Commander printed in Belgium. So for those of you who don't remember, for years, Magic was printed in Belgium. In the US, it is now mostly printed in Texas, with the collector boxes on occasion being printed in Japan. Now, we didn't see that for Turtles. We didn't see it for Edge of Eternities. I believe Avatar or Spider-Man, one of the two was in Japan. But that being said, if these two sets are being printed in Belgium for Europe, you can goddamn guarantee that they're going to be printed in the US. So for those of you who like to say that such and such is out of print because it's 2 years old, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about. There's also a mild rumor, and this may have been from talking to a couple of the WotC folks, that we may see one little ass gasp of Warhammer 40k decks coming out. And remember, guys, there's no reprint rules with WotC. Every time I hear somebody say it, they move the goalposts. They move the goalposts every single fucking time. The reason they went to from a 2-year rotation to a 3-year rotation is so they could reprint sets longer. It doesn't matter what they tell you. They lie to your face. Like, stop being an idiot. Look at what you see, look at the actions, and just realize the game you're playing. And the boxes work. It's just, there's so many people on YouTube and so many people online. They're just dumb. And you can't see the forest from the trees. In the US, we're seeing some movement. Wilds of Eldraine, Lord of the Rings, Ixalan set boxes may, quote, end quote, may be shipping with Strixhaven. TBT, there's been some communication. There's been some movement. We know that they are confirmed on the reprint schedule. I have been telling you guys for a while now. I was expecting them in April. If they ship with Strixhaven, it'll be a Q1 event. I tend to think it might come with the second wave of Strixhaven, so they can deliver it in April in Q2, because I think they need more revenue there. But again, repeat after me. There are no reprint rules with WotC. Anybody who tells you otherwise doesn't know what they're talking about. The end. Now, Sorcery. I had a bunch of people ask me about Sorcery in Discord, so I figured, let's go. So they were not present. Shocking, right? They're not even present to SorceryCon. Like, they schedule stuff and then they cancel. Nobody in distribution has any idea when they're getting more Gothic. Arthurian Legends, they do continue to get a few hundred boxes of beta every now and then, but they seem extremely frustrated by the lack of communication by the company, which again is surprising to me because their communication has been the worst communication in the history of any entity on the world. Like, it is so piss poor. There's not an adjective negative enough to talk about how bad their communication is. The consensus is really, this I found fascinating. I didn't realize this. The consensus was that everybody was surprised that they made a second set. Everybody kind of thought that alpha and then beta was just Eric's pet project. And then they just thought he'd just give up and move on. But, there's Arthurian Legends, and now we have Gothic out. So we'll see what happens. I mean, for all we know, Team Covenant and who are the other guys in the Carolinas? Star City Games could be sitting on 80,000 boxes, which is probably what they still have to sell to break even for the year. But distribution doesn't know. Kaio, I'm just mentioning this because they were not there. It's a Chinese company. They're doing the My Little Pony TCG, but they also have Naruto, Tokioki Doki, whatever the hell that is, and the K-pop Demon Hunter collectible cards that are coming out in April, May. If you run a store, it's going to be something that people are going to want. They are kind of cool, etc. And then just the last little bit here, other games that had presence there that I didn't have time to hit. And if I'm missing anybody, I apologize. Alestrals, Rush of Icor, there was an upper deck session. I did want to take a look at it, but I didn't have time. Shadowverse was there, Star Wars Unlimited, Yu-Gi-Oh! Oshi Push, I thought that was interesting. They had a really, really large open area, and the cards looked really cool. I just didn't have a whole lot of time to take a look at it. And then, obviously Lorcana was there, and it was kind of the same setup that they had at Toy Fair in New York. So, we'll see. I'm still not sold on Lorcana. I know everybody loves the Fabled set that they claim they're not going to reprint, even though they've reprinted everything into the ground. We'll see if they continue to, take a step back revenue-wise to do what's right for the game long-term. Still, when you got to pay $94 for a box from distribution and selling for $108 at release, it's not worth the money. It's just not. There's, it's not Pokemon. It's not Magic. I should say it's not Magic because the margins on Magic, some of them are really good. Some of them are a little tight. But to price things that tightly, no store in the world is going to take a waiver on that, quite honestly. And folks that like Disney, they don't like to spend money on things other than Disney. So it just kind of is what it is. So anyway, guys, hopefully this was interesting. So like the video, subscribe to the channel, join the Discord, and we'll probably talk tomorrow if we have a chance. So I guess have a good night.